Kaycee here, and I am here with Megan, and we are here to talk all about mysteries. How's it going, Megan?
It's going great. How are you?
Awesome. It's been a real hot minute since I've watched a Hallmark mystery. What about you?
I watched a few, I think in June or July, I did one with Rachel. But yeah, it's been at least a few months. But
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of miss the old days of the mysteries when we had them a lot more frequently. I don't know how you feel about that, but I feel I really just I miss the series, so I'm excited about the potential of these becoming series, hopefully.
yeah, it seems like this year there's a lot of like kind of pilots, if you will, first
Hmm.
times. But I really miss the serials, the series of it, getting to know the
Hmm.
characters. That's like my favorite part about the mysteries, or one of my favorite parts, because as opposed to like the other Hallmark movies where basically the whole idea is the couple gets together and then the
Right.
sequel, and there's usually like the sequels aren't great. Whereas this, you can have like a longer love story and,
Mhm.
keep character development. So I hope that they do more, second and third
Yeah.
episodes for some of these.
Yeah, for sure.
Ho, ho, ho! We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind the scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
So the first one we are going to talk about is Jazz Ramsey, a K-9 mystery. And that one aired on August 2nd in just a few weeks ago. And I'm going to go ahead and read the description from Hallmark. So, if you need a crime detection dog, you can call the best trainer in the business, and that would be Jazz Ramsey, played by Rachel Skarsten. And if you're Jazz, you not only train great dogs, but also mentor the next generation of curious minds, the Forensics Club at the Astor Academy of Girls. While running a demonstration with one of her crime sensing dog trainees, Jazz uncovers a murder victim on the deserted third floor of the school. Jazz's demonstration soon becomes a crime scene swarming with cops. Detective Nick Kolsov, played by Corey Sevier, sorry, I just butchered that name, head of the Major Crimes Unit, a dedicated investigator, as well as Jazz's ex-boyfriend, is assigned to investigate. Being an alumnus from the school, Nick brings Jazz into the case to utilize her expertise and her dogs to help gather evidence. Suspects begin to pile up while they investigate the death of the victim, an unpopular and overly strict teacher. But who would want this teacher dead? Jazz, with the help of Nick and her canine partner Zeus, will stop at nothing to find the truth. And this was executive produced by Beth Stevenson, Nancy Yeaman, and Stan Hom. And it was also based off of a novel, The Secret Bones, a Jazz Ramsey mystery by Kylie Logan. Oof, that was quite the
That was a
summary.
like a long summary.
Yeah, yeah. So, initial thoughts about this one. This is a first for us. We've not met these characters. We're introduced into this world. So, what were your thoughts?
This one wasn't my favorite overall. I feel like it kind of was slow to get started, and I didn't feel a lot of chemistry between the two leads. Um, it was, it was interesting. We'll get more into it, but there's like the ending I was a little shocked by, just for being a Hallmark movie. It was a little, I don't know, dark, I guess. I mean, I know,
Ah.
I know these are about murder, so it's really, they're always dark, but like, just a little darker than I'm used to. I don't
Hmm.
really have an opinion about that. It just like kind of struck me by surprise. What about
Hmm.
you?
Yeah, I agree. I had low expectations going into this. I don't know why. It just whenever I would see the commercials, it didn't really hook me. Um, and then I do agree, it felt a lot darker, and I think it's because we're dealing with a minor in the storyline, and we're dealing with a teacher, and she's crazy, and that just feels really, ooh, you know? Whereas other mysteries, it's typically, the baker or the banker or the gambler or somebody who's an adult able to make decisions, and we kind of avoid minors in these circumstances. But yeah, this one went dark.
Yes.
Hmm. For sure. um what were your thoughts about the K-9 part of the story?
I feel like that summary you read made it seem like the dog is more involved than I think the dog was.
Yes.
Like that was like her and the dog. Like I mean the dog obviously in the beginning finds the bones, which is I mean sorry, but what middle school or high school has a forensics club? Like I don't think that exists. I
Maybe
know
because
they
it's
have
a
a lot of
private school.
different yeah. They have a lot of different clubs they didn't have when we were growing up, but still I don't think I've ever heard of a forensics club.
Yeah.
But yeah, the dog just wasn't as involved. And there was like a few sort of like I feel like lines that came in later, like ADR lines, where I was like, I'm gonna drop the dog off at my mom's to
Hmm.
like kind of explain where the dog was. I felt like
Yeah.
that was kind of awkward. I don't know if like the original script had the dog more and maybe there was issues with the dog. I have no idea, obviously. But it did seem like the dog wasn't as involved as it said so in that summary for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, it's called a K-9 mystery, so I totally expected for it to be a lot more dog heavy. I don't know, like Zeus is sniffing out all of the suspects, or it's going on a wild goose chase, or but the dog kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
um, which I don't know. I agree. I thought, it was an interesting choice, but it's a unique, it's definitely a unique way for the characters to be involved in the mystery. So I guess that makes sense instead of, just, oh, I'm a random alumna headed to school finding a murder. So I feel like we could have done more though with the K-9 for sure. And then speaking of the discovery of the dead body, did you get a sense of the timeline for this movie? Because they said that the teacher and her lawyer or whoever walked in June 22nd, which that's typically the end of the school year. So then they have the forensics club. Are they still in the school? Like, is it a year-round school? Like, what is happening here? Because wouldn't you smell that dead body if you're
Yeah,
starting
right.
school a few months later? I don't know. Did I miss something?
I, to be honest, I didn't really pay attention to that. That's a really good point. I did feel like it was a new school year.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because she said at the end of the school, yeah, because that was at the end of the school year. So I don't know. Yeah, you're right about the dead body should have made more of a stink than, I mean, you think you would notice, but yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't pay attention to it very closely, and I guess
Hmm.
that was probably good because it really didn't make any sense.
Yeah, yeah. And then the other part of that is I'm just going to skip right to the chase at the end. We discover that, well, actually, let me pause here. When we stumble upon the dead body, We think that it is the old, I think she was an English teacher,
Mm-hmm.
Miss Quinn, her body. So we're on this rabbit trail thinking it's Miss Quinn. Um, and then turns out that Miss Quinn did a little switcheroo and murdered what was her name? The lawyer, whose name is escaping me right now.
I didn't
Uh
write it down for some reason.
I did not write her name down either. But she does a switcheroo as revenge. And the lawyer, now I know she put in her resignation and stuff, but you would think somebody was looking for her.
Yes. Yes. Did she have no friends? No family?
Right. No
Yeah, and you're right,
concerned
because it's been
colleagues.
months. It's at
Yeah.
least been a few months that this woman had gone missing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right.
yeah, they didn't report it, I guess. Or maybe they, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a really good point that someone would have been missing her.
Right. Right. I don't know. That just was very, very strange. And yeah. Yeah.
And I thought the first thing I thought when they said it was a switcheroo, because I could kind of tell that's what it was. But I thought, what about the dental records? Because that they made a
Mm-hmm.
big thing about that. It's like, oh, it was her dental records, so now we know it's Miss Quinn. And so apparently Miss Quinn like broke into the dental records and changed the dental records or something. Is that what she did, or did she change her actual teeth? I couldn't really tell what they were trying. They made some kind of statement about her doing that, and I couldn't tell exactly like how she would have done that. Did you catch that?
I was very confused about that too. Um, like, did she switch out her teeth? I I have I have no idea. I was so lost in the sauce with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't. I think maybe she like hacked into the dental records, but I don't even know
Hmm.
how you do that or where you would do that. It was very confusing. Like the switcheroo thing was just kind of it was a little too convenient, I guess. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Right. And the other thing too is, did they have the same dentist? Did they flip-flop? Did she stalk that lady so much that she was just, I'm going to trace every single move that you do. So I'm going to be with this dental office and this doctor's office. And I'm going to, I don't know, like that's just, that was a plot hole right there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, also, I mean, I guess do they test bones for like how old they are? Like, don't they usually when they find a dead body, they can tell you like, oh, this is
Hmm.
between the ages of this and this. I mean, she was
Hmm.
much older than the other lady. Wouldn't
Right.
did they not notice that? Like where they and like yeah, but I don't know. Maybe you wouldn't do that kind of detail on a
Maybe.
dead. I don't know, but it
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And then the other question too is obviously they're two very different people. The body has had to have been decaying for some point, which still doesn't make sense because of the whole smell situation. But you would think that they'd see the face. I mean, I can't imagine that they look that similar,
Yeah.
unless the
Yeah.
body was decaying so long.
Yes. Yes. And then the teacher was obsessed with this girl, one of her students, because she looked like her deceased daughter, which was really, that was also kind of, yeah, yeah, it's like, it was kind of weird. And I mean, the pictures that they showed, it was like basically the same girl.
Right, right.
It's
Except
like,
let's
okay,
just age her up a little bit.
yeah, like they looked exactly the same. Like, what are the chances of that? But yeah, that was kind of creepy.
That was so weird. I thought that we were gonna find out something about the girl being like the missing or like the daughter given up for adoption by the teacher, or maybe it was, I don't know, something weird like that, or maybe that was her daughter or a twin sister or something along the lines. But the fact that two separate people, oh, just so creepy. So
I thought the
weird.
same. I thought the exact same thing because they made the father of the student makes a uh, statement. She's
Hmm.
adopted, and
Hmm.
so when they said that, I immediately, was like, oh, that's probably what it is. It's her
Hmm.
like her daughter given up for adoption, which I think
Hmm.
would have maybe made more sense.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I mean, so I guess her daughter, so Miss Quinn's daughter and husband were killed by
Hmm.
this woman in a drunk driving accident, which I
Hmm.
was really shocked that they went there.
Hmm.
Um, because it is very sad, and then the fact that she, I guess this woman rehabilitated herself.
Hmm.
It was just a really like dark, complicated situation for an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah. And, and personally, I feel like it went like normal Hallmark, and then we got to the end and went,
Yes.
we went dark. Like,
Yes.
oh, okay.
And it was
So,
like all of a sudden, yeah, it
hmm.
felt very, very all of a sudden. I
Hmm.
think it was again, that's a very complicated, alcoholism, these kinds of things are very complicated and people have very strong opinions about them. And
Hmm.
I just feel like in an hour and 40 minutes, it felt weird because it was just
Hmm.
so glossed over, sort of.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, obviously, no one deserves to die.
Right, right.
but, but it was just like the whole thing was just it was just strange, especially for a Hallmark movie. I just didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was not my fave. I just
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it did feel for me too. It felt very disjointed. Like
Mm-hmm.
usually with the Hallmark mysteries, you can kind of track, you can kind of follow the breadcrumbs. Oh, this is a red herring. Oh, we're still following the breadcrumbs. This is another red herring. But this one felt a little more all over the place for sure, at least storytelling wise. I mean, they are dropping comments like, oh, my daughter is adopted. Oh, this teacher was really hard to work with when I was a student. Oh, this happened, that happened. And then you have like the random janitor and you've got the random caretaker. And it just didn't seem to flow. And I feel like they missed a few opportunities to tie it in a little bit more. Like, for example, the adopted daughter, maybe that was like a close adoption, and maybe she just had some kind of weird tie to this girl. And that would be a little less, yeah, creepy, but understandably creepy,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you have, put your child up for adoption and stuff. But yeah, this one has opportunities in the
That's a good way to put it.
future.
Yeah, yeah. Again, it just wasn't my favorite, and the romance, but or I didn't really feel like there was any real romance between
Mhm.
the two, and it didn't really feel like they explained why exactly they broke up, and I don't know.
Mhm.
It didn't feel it was not a lot of emphasis on that at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And I when Corey's character comes up, Nick, Detective Nick, and he's such a jerk, I'm like, ew, okay. And then they mentioned that's the ex boyfriend, fiance, and then I went, oh, well, that's why she dumped him.
He's
Because
a
he was
jerk.
such a jerk in the beginning. And then he softens up and he becomes a little more likable. But yeah, they didn't really tee that one up either, their relationship. And I think I do like them together as partners, like detective K-9 working partners. I feel like they jived really well, but I don't know, I just didn't feel that relationship with them, on a deeper level. The engagement, even the mom was like, oh, you guys were so good together. I'm like, really? Were
You know,
they?
exactly, exactly.
Yeah. So, what other details do you want to chat about before we move on to the next one? Did you have any other thoughts?
Oh, the only thing I wrote down is so Jazz and her friend, who's now the principal, there's like a flashback to them in Miss Quinn's class, and there's some kind of hamster thing. And Miss Quinn calls, she says, whoever lost the hamster is an imbecile. It's like, if one of my teachers called my kids an imbecile, or even like, I'm like, wow, she really was mean. Like, she was
Right.
a mean teacher. But then it was
Right.
weird too, because it was like, obviously the principal did not like that teacher. And then, but then Jazz had like, I guess, warm feelings for her because she pushed her in a certain way and like challenged her. But the flashbacks really made her seem like a terrible teacher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No,
Whoever did this is an imbecile.
Yeah.
They're like
Yeah.
13.
Right. And that is true. It was very inconsistent character for the teacher too. Because I can understand that first, I think it was the first flashback when Jazz talks about how she wants to follow in her father's footsteps. And her teacher's like, listen, you've got to basically suck it up and deal with this because you're going to do hard things in life. I'm like, okay, I get that. But then we just go crazy, just the other flashback, she's just too much. And you're kind of going, okay, kind of confused here, but okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It was kind of inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that could be the case. I'm sure you have teachers that you look back on fondly and someone else didn't, doesn't. But
Oh,
she was pretty like extreme, I felt.
yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. One other thing I just thought of, the other missed opportunity, I think, was Jazz being able to kind of calm that teacher down at the end by sharing, like, I lost my dad. Yes, you lost your husband and your child, but I also lost my dad, and that is obviously it's different, but it is still a loss. And I feel like they could have tied that in a little bit more. And I did think they were going to go that way, but they didn't. So which is unfortunate because we had a lot of that dynamic brought in through the movie is the whole situation with Jazz dealing with the loss of her father still years later, her mom's moving on, his workplace is moving on. There's just so many of those things that I feel like we could have used that to kind of try to de-escalate Miss Quinn at the end. So I don't know. That was another miss, I think, in this movie.
Definitely. Yeah. Because they usually do that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where, the woman, the protagonist has to kind of calm down the villain until, the guy comes and saves the day. But I agree with that they should have tied that in because they did make it a big deal throughout the movie.
Yeah. I think that is all for Jazz Ramsey. I mean, if they made another one, I wouldn't hate it. I would definitely watch it because I think this one wasn't like, oh gosh, I never watch another one, but it wasn't a favorite for me. I think if I were to watch another one, it'd be more out of curiosity, just to see where they take the characters. Because I do genuinely I like Jazz's character. I feel like Nick has a lot of dynamic growth to happen with his character. I really like the bestie, Sarah, too. And of course, like everybody likes a good old dog. But yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, I agree.
Meh side of all right.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's Baker Bookhouse Publishing and author Liz Johnson and the new book, Meddling with Mistletoe. Get into the holiday spirit with Meddling with Mistletoe, a festive novel of baking, matchmaking, and Christmas cheer by Liz Johnson. Whitney Garrett and Daniel Franklin find themselves back at the Red Door Inn at Christmas time. Both have bright futures ahead and don't expect to stay on Prince Edward Island for good. But a little holiday spirit, Christmas pie, and meddlesome matchmaking might just change their plans. Purchase Meddling with Mistletoe for 30% off and free shipping at bakerbookhouse.com. That's 30% off and free shipping at bakerbookhouse.com.
The next one we will be talking about is called Nelly Knows Mysteries, A Fatal Engagement, which originally premiered on Hallmark Mystery on August 23rd. And I will read this synopsis from Hallmark. An advice columnist searches for answers after her childhood friend is the prime suspect in her boyfriend's murder in Nelly Knows Mysteries, A Fatal Engagement, starring Pascal Hutton from When Calls the Heart and Kevin Smith, also from When Calls the Heart. Let me start that over. When an unusual handwritten letter arrives at Nellie's office, she identifies the handwriting as belonging to her childhood friend Dahlia, claiming her boyfriend Blake is being unfaithful. Determined to help, Nellie wants some answers and rushes to Blake's home, only to find his dead body. When Dahlia becomes prime suspect, the new handsome detective in town, Michael Hogan, played by Kevin Smith, must work with Nellie to prove that her childhood friend is not the killer everyone believes her to be. So, first of all, are you a When Calls the Heart watcher?
I am not. No, I've never
Okay.
gotten into it. Are
You know
you?
what? I have had a love-hate relationship with that show for like
Okay.
a decade. We won't get into it, but I will say, despite my ups and downs with that show, I love Pascal and Kevin. I adore them. I think they're so sweet and cute and so fun. I've always said on Wayne Calls the Heart they were always underutilized, just because I feel like they have together and separately they have a lot to bring. So I know Kevin and Pascal have done a few movies together. They did The Perfect Bride 1 and 2. They did the Aloha movie, and I think this is their fourth, which I mean, if you like working together, you might as well stick to a series, you know?
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
kind of like Andrew and Nikki.
Yeah.
They've done so many together, Palaha and Jill Wagner, when
Hmm.
they were doing the mysteries and stuff. So I just think it's smart, like if you really like working with somebody, stick them in a series, a
Yeah.
mystery. So
Yeah.
so yeah, that's my take on them as actors. And so when I found out they were doing this one, I was actually pretty excited because I'm a fangirl of both of them. So that's just me. Um, so since you have no stake in this with Kevin and Pascal, unlike several other Hallmark viewers, what were your initial thoughts going into it? What did you think of the movie? Spill the tea.
Yeah. I thought she was so cute. I mean, she was a little over the top at times, but I kind of loved it. I think, there's with these Hallmark movies, I'm looking for, a mystery, but also some laughter, some, entertainment. I kind of like it when they get a little campy and they're kind of
Mhm.
over the top. I prefer that to like the jazz movie, which seemed more like trying to be so serious because again you only have an hour and 40 minutes
Mhm.
and it's Hallmark, so when you try to go too serious sometimes you miss it. Whereas when you kind of go silly over the top, it even if it misses some things, you're having so much fun watching it that you kind of forget about those things, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
For
Um,
sure.
yeah, overall, I thought she was so cute. I thought they did have really good chemistry.
Mhm.
I did. I didn't know that they had worked together so much, but now that I know that, that makes so much sense because they did have
Mhm.
really good chemistry. I thought they were great. Yeah, overall, I liked it. Yeah, what about you?
I really enjoyed this one for sure. I thought it was cute and quirky. I love the music they chose for this.
The music was insane, but
It
like in a
was
good way.
so perfect
Yeah.
because I feel like the music just made it even quirkier. Like, okay,
Hmm.
we are totally out of our own little universe. We are in the universe of Nelly Knows Everything and Mysteries. We've got this whole like Pink Panther vibe going on. We've got Scooby Doo. I feel like she gave me some Daphne from Scooby Doo vibes with her outfits. I don't know what it
Yes.
was, but it just set the world up, I think, really well. Um, I think that this one has a lot of potential for future mysteries for sure. Um, this one, there were some moments that kind of dragged for me, but Again, there's so many people that we're trying to be introduced to so quickly in that hour and 40-minute slot that it felt a little like blah. But I definitely think this one has potential to be an actual series to carry the network. And I also will say with Cabot and Pascal, so When Calls the Heart, their chemistry is like chef's kiss. It's like perfection. When they did Perfect Bride 1, which was they were still doing When Calls the Heart, and I think that was their first movie outside of the When Calls the Heart universe together. They were almost like too friendly with each other, I think. And then the second one, they were just it was too much. Like, I mean, I loved them. I love both of those movies, but it was just like, whoa, you know? I think You Had Me at Aloha. They tried to play into the physical comedy. It didn't really hit. But this one, for whatever reason, I feel like they had, again, that perfect balance between humor and levity and serious moments and everything. And so I feel like this one is probably their best outside of the When Calls the Heart universe. So Hallmark is out there who've seen all of them and is a Pascal Kevin fan person. You'll have to let me know what you think about their chemistry in this one because I will say I was digging it for sure.
Yeah, I agree. She was just so cute. I mean, just from that opening scene of her like walking outside her house and then she catches the newspaper like immediately and I just thought, "Oh, I'm gonna like this." Like it's
Yeah.
just just the over the top silliness. It's fun. That's why I'm here for it, you
Hmm.
know? It's not like I'm watching I not that you can't have serious moments like you said, but I want to laugh, I want to be entertained, and that's definitely what they did. And I agree with the music. I noticed that right off the bat. I was like, this
Hmm.
is an interesting music choice, and I kind of like it. I like kind
Yeah.
of love it. And then yeah, her outfits were also very particular. Like she wore a lot of like the Peter Pan collars, and yeah, I thought, like you said, it really set up like this world, this universe. It was very it seemed like everything was picked and chosen for a very specific reason, and I think it all really worked. I do.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So as we're in this Nelly Knows universe, there are several people that we meet. And this gets a little confusing because there are just so many people. We meet Dahlia, and then she's got a stepsister named Colleen,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they live together or some they've moved in together, perhaps something
Yes,
like that. Dahlia is engaged to Blake, who is murdered. We have Blake's neighbor, Snide.
that was hilarious.
Yes, so funny. So funny. We have Snide, who we find out has a niece named Paige, who is married to a guy named Connor, who
Mm-hmm.
they all do this whole like poker night or something with Blake every Friday and this, that, and the other. And so like so many people are intertwined. We have Peter, who's played by Nelson Wong, who Nellie has some weird feelings about. I don't know. That one was interesting. She's like dodging him. We also have Zinnia, who is Dahlia's mom, which, side note, Dahlia and Zinnia, like perfect names for quirky characters, both names flowers. Like, gotta love it. But I think for me, because this is a first, I was getting lost with all of the characters. I feel like I needed a little bit of a map, or maybe I should have created the murder board myself and had like, okay, this is this person and this is that person. Um, but I think that we have a lot of potential for these characters to all have some kind of a bit of a hyperbole as we go on. So I think that would be fun to see.
I
What did you
agree. I
think?
hope they make another one. I would definitely watch it. And I agree that I got like Dahlia and her sister, but all the poker players kind of I was a little confused about who exactly was at the poker night
Right.
and who wasn't. Um But yeah, I thought you're right. There was just a lot of characters to introduce. I definitely thought it was going to be the sister.
Oh, right.
I
Yeah.
really thought it was going to be her. And they did, like, they really pushed it out. Like, first, and then that, like, Nellie catches her in a lie, and you think, oh, it's her, and then no, and then at the very end, you think it's Paige, and then it's like no. So they really drew it out to like literally the last like 5 minutes. You find out really there was a lot of kind of complicated um, storylines to all get back to
Hmm.
what's kind of a simple just jealousy murder, or I guess
Right.
or not
Right.
not jealousy, I guess like yeah, I don't know exactly what I would call it, but the the final
Yeah.
person and reasoning wasn't that complicated, but everything getting there, there was
Right.
a lot going on. Oh, and the grandma, that was hilarious.
Yes.
Can't forget about the
Yes.
grandma, Grant.
Yes, gotta love the grandma for sure. I One thing I thought was interesting is they arrested Dahlia a lot later than I anticipated. I thought that was pretty interesting because usually they get arrested in the first, like, I don't know, first third of the movie where they're like, it's you. And then, the person accused is like, oh, please save me, help me out of jail. And then they've got the whole, you've got the rest of the 90 minutes to figure it
Yeah.
out. But this one, I feel like they arrested her past the halfway mark. And then it was like, all right, we got to get the ball rolling again. So I thought that was an interesting choice.
Yeah,
Um,
agreed.
yeah. And then I also Rumpelsnide. We have to talk about his name. Did you ever watch Once Upon a Time on ABC?
Oh no, I mean I think I know of it, but I didn't
Okay.
watch it regularly, no.
Okay, because there was a character named Rumpelstiltskin, like
Yeah.
Rumple. But that was my immediate thought when they were like, "This is Rumpelsnide," and I immediately thought Rumple from Once Upon a Time. Same gruff, like angry type of
Yeah.
persona and stuff. But yeah, that was an interesting one too, because I feel like they tried to put him as a red herring.
Mhm.
Um, but obviously it was not. It was just the gruff old grumpy next door neighbor dealing with Blake and his shenanigans and whatnot. So yeah, I thought I would be interested to see his character come back.
Yeah, he was funny. And then like when Nellie, she's like, they call him Grumple. It's like, and then it turns out that the hair grandma has a big crush on
On
Rumple,
Grumple.
on Grumple Rumble.
Yeah.
And that's how she knew about the house being sold for, a certain amount of
Hmm.
for the 300 grand, which wow, that's a very inexpensive house.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I thought he was an interesting character. I would think if him and the grandma do have a romantic relationship, he might come back.
Yeah. Now that would be really interesting.
Yeah.
Little twist there, little side C story line or whatever. One other thing we find out about Nellie on a personal level is that she was once engaged. Um, Engaged to Fred, who died in a car accident 5 years prior. I really like this moment between Nellie and Michael. I thought it was really well done. I think they like really channeled the quietness of that moment. Um, and it's interesting because I feel like more so now with these new mysteries, we have, usually it's an ex or, you know, maybe not, whatever. But this, I feel like it's been a while since we've had like a death, like a engagement like that, like where the other person had died. So I think that's like interesting. That'll be an interesting layer for Nellie, especially as she starts diving into a relationship with Detective Michael and stuff. So yeah.
I definitely agree. I thought, because he starts by saying, "Why are you so happy all the time?"
Hmm.
And then when she says, "I guess I just choose to be happy." I that really just resonated with me because it's like, yeah, everyone goes through really hard things, and I'm not saying that, you can't be upset or that like
Hmm.
depression's not real, but there is something to be said about, choosing the light and choosing the happiness and choosing to see joy. And
Hmm.
I thought she really sold that line. Like,
Yeah.
I thought I really believed it when she said it.
Hmm.
And I thought, yeah, like you said, that moment between them was really nice.
Hmm. Yeah. It went surprisingly deep for a moment
Mm-hmm.
there, which I
Yes.
think again is nice for this first, this first movie for a series is like we're building the characters, we're laying down the foundation, we're figuring out like their pasts. And I think it just really sets it up for more movies for sure.
Hmm. I couldn't tell. So she said that he passed away 5 years ago.
Hmm.
I couldn't tell, like, did they get engaged and then he immediately passed away? Like, how long were they engaged before he passed away? I don't feel like they really said that. Did they, or did I
Oh,
miss it?
I don't think they said it
Yeah.
specifically. It sounded like they were engaged for, it didn't sound like it was very long.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, they got engaged and then soon after. I
Hmm.
thought she was saying, at first, I thought she was saying he died that night.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think that was the case. I think it was a little bit later on, but yeah, not too much later, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it seemed to be within that first like at least 6 months
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
in that time frame.
But
So,
again, they left it kind of open so they can, explain
hmm.
it more later.
Hmm.
It's not like we needed to know. I just was curious if I missed it.
Yeah. Yeah. So going to the suspects, you had mentioned you thought it was Colleen. Did you have any other suspicions about who might have killed Blake?
I did think Paige was extremely um, suspicious.
Hmm.
So when they go to her house, so they go to interview her husband first,
Hmm.
who plays the poker game with Blake, and then she comes in later and she's, very annoyed that they're
Hmm.
there and obviously doesn't seem to like Blake at all. So I definitely thought there was something going on there
Hmm.
with her. I didn't expect it to be her husband. I didn't really see that coming.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think Colleen and Paige are both high suspects for me. Not to go too off topic, but did you notice that the sister, Colleen, like says nothing in the first like three scenes she's in? She has no
Yeah.
lines. And I at first I thought, is she just never gonna have a line? Like, are they gonna give her it? She says nothing in like the first three scenes, and then she starts talking, and I was like, okay, good. I'm glad this actress isn't just standing. I'm glad she got some lines because at first I thought, are they just not gonna give her a line?
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so those two are my top. What about you?
Yeah. So real quick on Colleen, because she was so quiet, I didn't even really notice her until Dahlia got arrested and she was like, "Oh no, please help me
Yeah.
out, help her." And I'm like, "Who are you?" Terrible, but yeah, that was interesting. I wonder if they cut stuff. Maybe they cut a bunch of extra things.
Maybe.
Maybe
Yeah.
that would make sense. But as far as the suspects, I think I was too busy trying to figure out who everybody was in relation to Nelly and Blake and Dahlia. I didn't really have anybody in particular. I thought maybe it could be somehow Peter, which is Nelson Wong's character, just because he was just so nice and Nelly just made it a point to be all like, oh, hi. And then he would be very unsuspecting, I feel like. So I always go for the unsuspecting ones. I'm usually always wrong. But yeah, I did not expect it to be, I definitely didn't expect it to be Connor, who was
Yeah.
the husband there.
I mean, they did make it make sense. It's not
Hmm.
that it didn't make sense at the end, but again, like basically you think it's Paige up until like the very last minute,
Right.
um, because of, the she basically has that scene where they, where usually it's the person who did it that's, spilling the beans
Yeah.
on why, and then it turned out it wasn't even her.
Yeah, let's talk about that ending. Ah, okay, first of all, Kate Craven, who plays Paige, she does really well at acting the crazy girl. I think every time I've seen her in one of those roles, I'm like, man, she's so good at that. But I I was really confused why Paige was coming at Nelly with a knife if she
Yeah.
wasn't the murderer.
Yes.
And she was just worried about stuff getting out. I was like, do we have to come at you at it with a knife? Like,
Yeah. I think technically she would probably still get in trouble for that. I think that
oh
is like
yeah.
attempted assault.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I totally thought that it was going to be her because so I guess so she was she the granddaughter of Crumple?
I think niece.
Niece. Okay. And then she sold his house for less than it was worth so that she could get some of the money.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically Blake found out
Mm-hmm.
and was blackmailing her.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Yes. Now, this is where it got a little fuzzy for me, was the relationship between Blake and Paige and Connor as to why would he blackmail her? Was it to get more money because he was greedy? Because he was putting all of his money in like all of his eggs in one basket? Like I was a little lost about that whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it was weird. I guess because he needed the money to buy a ring for Dahlia. And it
Was that
also
it?
I think so, because basically, you kind of can't. They didn't really go into whether like this Blake guy was a good guy or a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it turns out he wasn't cheating, right?
Right, right. He
That
wasn't
was not
cheating.
actually happening. Um, because instead he was blackmailing someone. I'm not sure which is worse, cheating or blackmailing.
Right.
Pick your poison. But I think, yeah, and then Dahlia had a lot of money, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Or her parents had money. And it
Mm-hmm.
seemed like he was kind of dating her for the money.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like he was blackmailing Paige to get money to buy an engagement ring so then he could
Mm-hmm.
marry this rich girl. I feel like that was what was going on, but maybe that was just me. I don't know.
Yeah, but weren't they already engaged?
No,
No.
that was the
He
thing.
was
Yeah,
he was gonna
he
propose.
was going to propose.
He was going to
Exactly.
propose. He was
And that's
gonna
why
propose that Friday, which is why he changed the poker night to
poker night to
Tuesday or
Wednesday.
whatever,
Yeah.
Wednesday. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
I
not a good
definitely think they could have made it more obvious that he was a bad guy because I mean I think they were getting there
guy. Mm-hmm.
that like he wasn't a great boyfriend and
Mm-hmm.
I think it felt like to me they were hinting that he was using her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At least that's what everyone else thought too. That's what the
Yeah.
mom thought and that's what the sister thought that like he wasn't good enough for her. Um, but yeah, I mean yeah. So I guess so. Paige is being blackmailed.
Mm-hmm.
And then her husband finds out.
Yes. And then I believe that's when he confronts Blake.
Yes, I
Right.
think so too.
The cool, crisp days of fall are calling. Fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time to go back to school thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore.
Crush your wellness goals this month with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. Keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. Enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well balanced. Head to factormeals.com/hallmarkies50. Use the code hallmarkies50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code hallmarkies50 at factormeals.com/hallmarkies50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active.
Did he say how he found out? I can't remember that.
How Blake found out, or how Connor found out about.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I feel like that wasn't as clear either.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to this ending, one thing that I don't love about the mysteries sometimes is when they tell you everything that's going on. It was just, for this ending, it was a lot of, I saw this and I did this and I heard this and then I did this, and it's like, okay, hold on. I should be tracking, but I'm struggling here because I feel like we're seeing something unfold on screen and we should be able to track. Like we should see the breadcrumbs a little bit, even if there's a ton of red herrings. But when they go into this whole backstory, you're kind of, I don't know, I feel like it takes you out a little bit. And so when it comes to some of these details, I'm a little lost as to like, how did they find out? And like, was it an accidental death or was it a purposeful death? Like, did he push him and then he like just hit his head and die, or did he like stab? Like, there's some of those where you're kind of like, I'm trying to figure this out. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously blackmailing's bad. I'm not
yeah,
saying that it's a good thing, but I don't know if I would, if I found out someone was blackmailing my husband, I don't know if I would kill them.
right.
I mean, it's like that doesn't really match. Like, okay, I mean, I get that you wouldn't want your partner to be blackmailed, obviously,
Right.
but you kill them over it? I mean, I guess maybe it was the money that made him mad because that they needed the money too, so maybe he was mad that Blake was taking this money from his wife. I also couldn't tell if Connor, the husband, knew that Paige sold the house for less. Like, did he know that too? Was he in on it, or did she do it on her own?
Yeah, that I have no idea. Yeah, but
And it's also not that. I mean, again, not the best.
right.
But not like that bad. Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's bad, but I feel like why didn't she just go to her uncle and say, hey, like, I'll help you sell the house. Can I borrow a little bit of what you make?
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, maybe he was too grumpy for that, but I don't know.
Maybe. It didn't really fit everything perfectly. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Although I will say, Connor was willing to like off his wife, So I mean, maybe he's just has that secret fit of rage. Maybe that's like maybe it just came up and yeah, I feel like there was some missing elements with Connor, and maybe they did that on purpose so we'd be thrown off. But again, it was one of those things where I feel like we were going in one way and then we missed a few details and now we have the end and now we're like, wait, how does this fit together?
Yeah. Especially with that, but before the ending with the letter. So, in the beginning, Nellie gets the letter and she thinks it's Dahlia because she puts a little heart over her eyes, which, I mean, I think you should stop doing that when you're like about 13.
Yeah. I was gonna say.
No offense to anyone who does it, but I don't know how professional it is. You're like
right.
taking notes at a meeting and you're like putting a little heart. Anyways, so that's why Nellie thinks it's Dahlia, but then it turns out it was the sister, and she knew that if she put hearts on the eyes, that Nelly would think the letter was from Dahlia.
Mm.
And that I felt like, okay, well now that's who did it. But then
Mhm.
that was also just like a whole separate thing.
Yeah.
So they spent a lot of time on that right before the ending,
Mhm.
as opposed to like spending. Does that make sense? What I'm
Yeah,
trying to say?
yeah. No,
Yeah.
it for sure. Yeah, it's like we're focusing so much here and then turns out to be like not that big of a deal.
Turns out to be nothing. Like
Right.
they just all thought he was cheating,
Right.
um, when he was just again blackmailing someone.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah. But again, I don't hate like all these things that we're just like discussing it, but I didn't
Mhm.
hate any of it. Like I was, again,
Yeah.
I was just so entertained
Mhm.
with her and the world, and I just thought, okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, I was like, sometimes you have to just kind of roll with it. And I think
Mhm.
as I, mentioned when we first started talking about this, is that when they have the chemistry and the playfulness and the funniness and the campy, and it makes it easier for me, at least. I don't know if everyone
Mhm.
feels this way, to kind of forgive a few plot holes.
Oh yeah.
Uh, where when you're trying to be so serious, then it's like, okay, then the plot holes almost stand out even more because
Mhm.
you're trying
Yeah.
to be so like a serious mystery.
Right.
And so I think that's why it kind of worked for
Yeah.
me.
No, I totally agree with you. I feel like those mysteries that are the campy ones that are a little, people act a little more aloof and it's a little silly and campy. It is a lot easier to forgive those plot holes
Hmm.
for sure. Because when I finished watching this, now I will say it wasn't my favorite. I think it definitely has a lot of potential to become a favorite. But of all the ones I've seen, it's definitely not, it's like in that mid tier.
Hmm.
um, I think that it is definitely a lot easier to forgive those plot holes than the jazz mystery where everything has to be so serious. But then if you're going to be serious, you might as well have everything lined up. And then when something's out of sync, that's when you're like, "Whoa, what?" um, so yeah, I hope they keep producing this one. I think it's a great addition.
Me too. And I do think her job as, the advice columnist
Hmm.
at the newspaper is just a great setup for,
Hmm.
future mysteries. Sometimes I think when they start in the job that the woman has doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like,
Hmm.
how are they going to keep finding mysteries?
Right, right.
Um, I mean, you could even say that about Aurora Tea Garden. It's like, why does this
Hmm.
librarian keep finding dead people?
Right, right. Or garage sale mysteries where it's an
Yeah,
antique shop owner.
yeah. But like with her being at the newspaper and getting
Hmm.
letters, like I could like that seems like you know an easy way to continue the story
Hmm.
and make her finding all these mysteries make sense. Again, not
Hmm.
that it has to make complete sense. Because
Right,
everyone loves Aurora Tea Garden, and again, she's a librarian who finds a
right.
dead body every other week. I do think that it's a good setup. I don't know if you
Hmm.
remember. I watched this other one with Rachel, and the woman was a nine or not a nine one like a tip
Oh,
line, the
tip
tip line
line?
mystery.
Hmm.
Yeah, I thought that one too was like, okay, this job makes sense for
Hmm.
someone who's going to be finding mysteries and solving murder mysteries.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah, yeah,
I really
definitely.
do hope they do it. Again, the whole world was just really
Hmm.
fun. This like small town where everybody knows everybody. I know
Yeah.
I love that about Hallmark movies. I definitely don't live in a small town.
Yeah. Yeah, I live in a pretty small town.
Oh, you do? Yeah.
Yeah, so
Do
it's
you are you solving mysteries every other week?
oh no, but it
That's the
is
other thing.
interesting to go, oh, I know this person through this, or we went to school together, and they're for it's perks of a small town.
Yeah. That's the other funny thing when it's a small town and these mysteries become serious because it's like, how many people can die in this small
I
town?
know,
Like maybe no one should live there anymore.
right? Or it should be like a small town, but then there's like bigger towns around it. So like
Hmm.
you have to
Yeah.
go to the bigger town because that's
Yeah.
kind of where I live. I technically live in a small town outside of a bigger suburb
Got
area, and so yeah, could maybe do that.
it. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, overall, I think, like you said, I don't know if it was my favorite, but again, I look back and I think, would, the first Aurora Tea Garden or the first Garage
Hmm.
Mysteries, would that one be our favorite? I didn't watch them in real time.
Yeah.
I didn't watch the premiere in real time. So I do think the first one's probably not going to be the
Hmm.
best because, like
Right.
you said, they have to set up everything.
Hmm.
And I think it has a lot of potential. So
Yeah.
I do hope, again, I hope that they pick a few from this year and then like next year, like
Hmm.
mostly sequels and maybe one or two new ones. I don't want like a whole nother year of new ones, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
pick three or four that everyone liked, continue that, and then maybe add
Hmm.
some. I'm not saying no new ones, but just
Right.
like 'cause so far the only I'm trying to think. So far, so the catering has had
Hmm.
two or three or
I
four
think
maybe.
we're up to five. Well,
Oh
I don't
wow.
know
Okay.
that they haven't aired yet. I know at least three or four, and I think they just filmed five or filmed four. I
Okay. So I mean that's
guess five, four.
definitely a series.
Yeah.
What other mystery
Um,
series?
Paul Campbell,
Oh,
the family
yes.
cases of Mystery Lane or something
Yes,
like
but
that.
that's only on its second. So yeah, that's a new
Yes.
one too that they have
Uh-huh.
obviously picked. I am looking forward to that. I think
Hmm.
that's fun. I like that they're a married
Yeah.
couple. I think that's
Hmm.
just something different.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
yeah, I thought that, but I can't think of any others.
there's also oh, what is it? Trying to pull here. Yeah, we have Curious Caterer. Tip Line is still a singleton. Family Practice Mysteries, is that one a series now too? Or that's a singleton.
Yeah, that was a singleton too.
Singleton.
Because those are
Um,
the two I think I watched with Rachel.
okay, yeah.
I did a podcast with Rachel on those two.
There's Hannah Swenson's returning. Although people have some feels about Hannah Swenson. Woo!
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know. What are their
Yeah.
feelings?
Well, they what is it? Okay, I've watched Hannah Swenson Mysteries. Now, it wasn't my favorite, the originals, because it was the baked Murder She Baked, right? And then it turned into Hannah Swenson. I didn't love the Murder She Baked ones. It didn't really catch me, but a couple of the Hannah Swenson ones I thought was new. Um, basically, the Cameron Matheson leaves the series, and so they have to switch it, I think, to Victor Webster, which
Mhm.
Victor Webster is fantastic, but it's just disrupting that universe of we've been invested for so long with like the Hannah character with the Cameron Matheson character, and then they bait and switch because actor's no
Yeah.
longer available. So yeah, people have some feelings about that one.
Well, and because I think she already had like several. She was one of the. I mean, I think Aurora had two love interests before she finally got married. She had another one before, I
Hmm.
think. But I think Hannah had at least like two or three until Cameron, because I don't think Cameron was the original man. I feel like she had another love interest. So I
I
think
think it was a love
it
triangle.
was a love
If I remember, it was
triangle.
a
Okay,
love triangle, and then her character ends up with Cameron's character, I
got
think,
it.
and I think they get engaged or
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah,
And
they
then it
do.
was
Yeah.
like, then he was like on the rocks about the relationship, which really ticked a bunch of people off. And I think the next one was when it was either the next one or the one after is when they switched it to Victor
I
Webster,
think it was the
which
very next one because I remember when I watched it and Victor was introduced, I thought this is weird. I don't and then so I went back and looked and watched the one before that,
hmm,
and yeah, she's engaged, and I forget why they break up, but I remember thinking this is the dumbest reason for anyone to break up. It was
right.
really like really you wouldn't wake up a a fiance, an engagement over. I don't remember exactly because it's been a few months since I've seen it, but I do remember thinking that's BS. It's just so obvious that because he's
Yeah.
no longer with the network, right?
Yeah.
Cameron?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Which, I
that's
mean,
why.
at that point, you might as well just like kill their characters off.
Yeah.
You know,
Kill him.
like, yeah, you might as well, just so that it's like, that's it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a good reason not to be engaged to somebody anymore.
Because they're dead.
Because they're dead. It's on brand with the mystery. Murder, dead.
Yeah. Because then she could solve his murder.
Right. That would be good. That would have been the missed opportunity.
Yeah.
The other one was the Jane Mysteries.
Which one?
Jane with Jodie Sweetin. Because they
Oh, I
did
haven't even,
one and then they did the second one.
oh, I haven't seen those at all.
Yeah, I've not seen them either. I've not heard great things about
Mm.
that one. Somebody said even Jodie Sweetin couldn't save the series. So I don't know. They're really picking interesting ones to become
Yeah.
series, but
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I hope if they can only choose a few to be series, I really hope this is one of
hmm
them. I would like this one and the tip line. I think
hmm
both of those
yeah,
would be a good
yeah,
continuation
yeah,
if
yeah.
I was in charge, which I'm not.
Well, they should hire you, Megan. What are they
I
waiting
know, right?
for?
They should. Well, I don't know. I was telling this to Rachel when I did the other one is remember like how it was mysteries and then they kind of did a year where there was a lot of dramas and
hmm
we kept saying like we want mysteries back. We want mysteries back. And then this year has been and then they changed the whole network. It's 100% mysteries now. And I always wonder, I'm like, did they listen to the podcast? Because we had been saying that, like, no more dramas. We want mysteries, and now
hmm
it's all mysteries, which I'm happy about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I do like the mysteries. I think
hmm
they're fun.
Oh yeah, for sure. I love the mysteries. I might love the mysteries more than I love the actual OG channel
Yeah.
some days.
Well, it's also one of those things like my kids are older now, so it's
hmm
not as important. But when they were younger, it's something that I can have on that's still fun and interesting to me, but
hmm
not like, Game of Thrones or something.
Right,
Like,
right,
you
right.
know, like when I mean maybe not really little, but when they were like in middle school or
Yeah.
whatever, it's like it's something that you can have on the TV and you're not
hmm
afraid your kid's gonna walk in and see someone, you know,
Like
actually.
hanging there or like,
Yeah,
in
exactly.
pieces.
So
Yeah.
that I always liked about it, and that's why I
hmm
like the Hallmark Channel in general is just, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
family friendly stuff. But
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, so I'm glad that they're doing more mysteries, and I will be excited to see where this one goes.
Yeah. Same, same, same. So fingers crossed 2025. Let's get a few more Nelly Knows Mysteries. It's
Mm-hmm.
plural, so we've got to have at least a couple more. And yeah. Well, this was fun getting to chat with you about mysteries, and hopefully we can do it again for the
Yes,
next
it was
one.
really fun. Yeah, yeah, I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Yeah. Are you on social media? Do you have any social media you wanted to shout out or anything like that?
I'm on Instagram, but I haven't really been active, and I can't ever remember my handles.
Okay.
But I need to get, I'm like, I took a long break, how sometimes you
Yeah.
need a break. And I have now gotten back to looking at it, but I haven't posted.
hmm
So,
Yeah. I hear you. Yeah, I have social media, but life has just been so crazy. But Twitter or X, whatever it's called, and Instagram, Kaycee Kaycee __ Simpson. That's where you can find me. I am not great about the tweeting anymore or whatever the posting on X.
the Xting,
Really,
do they
the
call it Xting?
Xting, like what? Not great about that. And also Instagram's just like random stuff. But hopefully, because we're heading into holiday season, hopefully I'll get back on it like
Yes.
I was a few years ago. So For you guys listening out there, let us know what you thought about Jazz, Ramsey, a K-9 mystery, and Nelly Knows Mysteries. We'd love to hear from y'all. Leave a comment. Let us know what you thought. Let us know if you want to see these as series. We would love to have the conversation with y'all. So until then, we'll see you next time. Bye.